morning. This is Jamal Hassan from the Voice Studio in Washington, D.C., USA. Welcome to my show. The voice is your voice. Today, I'm going to introduce Mr. Mehul Kamdar. Mr. Kamdar began his career as a radio journalist in India and subsequently gained experience in print journalism. At one point, he was the youngest editor of an ABC audited journal in the world. He is an alumnus of Roosevelt University and the University of Chicago, who speaks 9 languages fluently. His interests are in studying international affairs, especially related to South Asia, the Middle East, and their relationship with his adoptive country, United States. Mr. Kamdar, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hassan, and thank you for inviting me.
Today is the 12th day of Iranian people's uprising. And I know it very well that you are keenly observing the situation in India's neighboring country, Iran. And you might have noticed that U.S. Delta Force is mobilizing towards Iran, and U.S. military troops are mobilizing in the Middle East. And you know, there are some movements maybe a week ago, like some C-17 flew to UK. You are probably aware of that. These are the global situation. And just to quote one famous YouTuber or influencer, Mr. Patrick Bet-David, I follow his valuetainment. But Patrick was kind of a hesitant to call Crown Prince the Crown Prince. I'm talking about Reza Pahlavi, and he was saying that Reza Pahlavi was not very eager to invite USA to intervene in Iranian affairs, and Patrick was basically asking Reza Pahlavi. And my take on this matter is a country's leadership cannot just openly say that, oh, help us, and but basically it may undermine his credibility. Anyway, I think even if Reza Pahlavi asks America to intervene or not, I believe America is going to intervene, and I know that is Israel's interest also there, because Israel understood very well that Iran is the head of the monstrous Hydra. Anyway, I want to get your opinion about the situation. 12 days going on. What is the chance the Iranian people will ultimately overcome this movement?
My personal thought on this is that the first interest and the most important interest that we have to take is that of the Iranian people. They have been brutalized, they have been mistreated by this regime right from the time, Ruhollah Khomeini took the country over in 1979. So we are talking about something like 70 million people who have suffered horribly under the crazy mullahs over there. We know the situation in which, the mullahs' own families live outside. Khamenei's daughter lives in New York City, and she has been, photographed wearing skirts that were short enough to let her underwear be seen. Whereas in Iran, women get beaten to death for not covering their heads, among other things. Ali Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani passed away some time ago, and his daughter Faiza has been living in Paris. She lives like a European supermodel. So they had a particularly hypocritical regime, which also was brutal on the people of Iran. And fortunately now, this uprising has come to a stage where at least in 2 cities, we are aware that the local police put down their arms publicly in front of the people. The videos are there for the world to see. So it's not something that's, unknown. And on the other hand, for the first time, we have a president of the United States who has clearly warned the Iranian government that he said, if you try to kill innocent people, we are locked and loaded. We are waiting for you. Previously, when this happened during the Arab Spring, I think the Iranian people were badly let down by then President Barack Obama. He did not do anything. And not only did he not do anything, he later sent billions of dollars in cash to Iran. He completely lifted, all uh, the surveillance that was being done on the country, and literally gave them path forward towards racing ahead to build nuclear weapons. So that is not
Regarding
anymore.
regarding the nuclear weapon, we know that former President Obama or even Bill Clinton were more lenient with the Iranian administration. After 1979, so-called Islamic Revolution, we saw the clergies how they become over-encompassing in governing a country, and you know that how they grab the judiciary, executive, legislative branches of the government, and this is very unfortunate. This is this is very, very unfortunate thing happening, and we found out one thing also. If you go back to 1989 or before the fall of or after the fall of Berlin, Berlin Wall, you saw a division of Czechoslovakia or even dismemberment or disintegration of the Soviet Empire. There are not too much of bloodshed. Communism fell like what a house of cards. But some people may say, yes, when a ruling party brings Allah or God into the equation, then it's more difficult to topple the government, and it's much more difficult than toppling secular or not secular or a human principled communism. Anyway, going back to the nuclear aspect of the Iranian regime, I would point out that Trump administration withdrew from the JCPOA on May 8, 2018. JCPOA is a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And during that time, I was deployed in Saudi Arabia, and I remember Trump was from the beginning, from the get-go, he was against the JCPOA. Later on, we found out that Ayatollahs of Iran were playing hide and seek with the Westerners. Would you like to point out about that, like how they were sort of cheating on the on the terms of JCPOA? If you can highlight on that.
Sir, there is no question that the Iranians were trying their best to develop nuclear weapons. Now, one connection that they have with India is that a lot of the Iranian nuclear scientists back in the 80s, when Indira Gandhi and later Rajiv Gandhi were prime minister, they came to India and they got their PhDs at IITs. I know several of them who actually earned their PhDs from the IITs in various disciplines, including metallurgy, including nuclear physics, and at the Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics, etc. So that was a time when India itself was solidly in the Soviet camp. It was dead against the United States. I was a university student, and then later, I was a young a junior program executive at All India Radio, their English language broadcast section. So things were quite different back then, and many of them learned what they learned in India before going back to Iran. So there was no question that they were working towards nuclear weapons. The Israelis, managed to find a way inside, and they managed to sabotage and slow the process down. But without a major power like the United States taking them on, this was not going to stop. And more than anything else, the brutal repression that the Iranian regime has been carrying out. I mean, you spoke about the judiciary. People don't remember that when Khomeini took the country over, he appointed one of his friends, a judge called Yunus Khalkhali, as the Chief Justice of Iran. And on one single day, I don't think anybody else has come anywhere near that record. On one single day, he handed down more than 300 death sentences. Every case that was brought to him by, the Savama or any of the other agencies at that time would come up with only one sentence: hang. That's it. He wouldn't even complete the sentence. He would just use the word hang. So nobody has any count of how many hundreds of thousands of people were brutally killed at that time, including young Baha'i girls. They would be hanged because they refused to convert and to accept Khomeini as their imam. He was never an imam officially by education, but that's a different story. So this is a brutal regime that would have used any means it could in order to create whatever harm it could, to cause whatever damage it could to countries that it did not agree with. I mean, we remember the drone attacks inside Saudi Arabia, which took place, several years ago, when Trump was in his first term. Uh, some say that those drone attacks happened from within Saudi Arabia itself, from some of the Shia provinces in the country. So Iran was trying its best to cause harm everywhere. And for what reason, only the mullahs know. They have their own crazy ideas about what they want, and they were getting away with it. At some point, that had to stop. And as I personally feel, the main interest over there is the interest of the Iranian people. They are the ones who have been suffering, and unfortunately, they don't have arms. They don't have any way of fighting the IRGC. But I think the warning that went from the United States makes it very clear to the IRGC that if they try to come up with the same kind of brutal crackdown that they did at the time Barack Obama was president, and he allowed them to get away with it, is almost certainly not going to happen. Trump bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. He used bunker buster bombs and completely reduced them to rubble. So that is a message that seems to have gone down, at least so far.
And in this case, I would remind the audience that on June 22 of last year, I think around 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, B-2 U.S. B-2 bombers, basically bombed the big Ferdo nuclear facility. That happened, and this is the time. I think this is the last war, because obviously we had movements in 2019, and there were other movements like a Masa Amini movement a couple of years ago. But as you pointed out, because IRGC has the arms, and not only IRGC, Basij. My sources in Iran says not only the Basij militias, there are also jihadis from Iraq. Many Arab militias also were imported, because sometimes the local militias were reluctant to, fire on their own countrymen, countrywomen. So that happened, fellow citizens. It happens sometimes. So they brought. I heard that in a place called in a city called Mashhad, they had contingents of Iraqi militants, if you are aware of it. So it was, and nowadays it's more, on the press that it's happening now. They're trying to bring militants from the Arab countries, maybe from Syria, Iraq. And still, I would say the last year's that Iran scenario last year, if you go back to that, when Israel and USA jointly conducted the mission, and I think that helped decimate part of the structure of IRGC. That helped. And during the last 1 year, we are hearing this like a sudden bombing, sabotage going on. Rumor is going on about Mossad's direct involvement. Can you point out something about that? Whether Israeli intelligence is involved?
So they're almost certainly involved. For Israel, it's a matter of survival. And I think, now every indication points to the fact that the October 7th massacre at the music festival in Israel was almost certainly planned and executed by the Iranians. Without their support, without their planning, it would have been impossible for Hamas to do it, and in a coordinated manner for Hezbollah and the Houthis to fire so many rockets at Israel. So for the Israelis, it's a matter of survival. They know it. They've done it even previously. They found a way at one point of time to put in software which destroyed the centrifuges, which were which the Iranians were using to refine the uranium in order to build a bomb.
I think it happened in before, I think around 2016.
Yes,
Yeah.
some years ago. I mean, I'm not sure of the exact year, but they have been working, very consistently. At the same time, historically, if we go back, all the way back to even to the time of Cyrus the Great, he was a Persian king who gave support to the Jews. He gave them a lot of support. The previous Shah of Iran was openly supportive of Jews, and the present Reza Pahlavi, the second or third, I don't know what his designation is. His sister is married to a Jew, so it's a very, very interesting situation that they have over there.
The $1 million question in this case would be, yeah, Iran becoming being a Shiite-dominated country or a Shiite-led country, why they were fomenting trouble in the Middle East, especially helping the Hamas, the Sunni groups who are anti-Israel. And obviously, I mean, we can see a lot of collusion with some of the Sunni militant groups in the Middle East with the Iranian IRGC. Isn't it kind of irony where, yeah, I mean, I was in the Saudi Arabia, and I saw that they really despise the Shiites. And even many common men in Saudi Arabia sometimes told me that they don't consider Shiites as Muslims. So what is your take on that? Why Iranian clergies are so much fomenting trouble in the Middle East, colluding with the Sunni jihadis?
So I think it goes back even earlier. If you go back to the early days of the Muslim Brotherhood, and you take the various quote unquote leaders who came out of Egypt mostly, and also one man whom the United States gave asylum, Abu Ala Maududi. He came to the U.S. He lived in comfort. He died in Buffalo, in upstate New York. His son lives over there, and he practices the same jihadi philosophies. But one name that we don't, look at very seriously at that time is the name of Ali Shariati, who was a Shia. So at that time itself, I think there was some kind of understanding between extremist groups, both on the Shia and the Sunni side, that they should leave the sectarian ideology aside and that they have to work together. So that has been happening for a while. A lot of things came to bring all of these groups together. There are rumors that the Iranians even helped, Osama bin Laden. A large part of his family lived in Iran, completely under the protection of the Iranian mullahs, so that the US would not be able to get them. Unfortunately for him, he was in Abbottabad and he was killed by the US Navy SEALs. So,
yeah, I got your point. Now, talking about Shiite militant or Sunni militants or Islamists, if you say,
yes,
Sunni Islamist and that strange bed partnership between Shiite Islamist and Sunni Islamist. Give an example of Mr. Mamdani. Mamdani is not known to be a Sunni guy. I'm talking about the new mayor of New York. But we saw during his campaign, his election campaign, we saw that a large group of Sunni Islamist groups like KR, CAIR, or even the lady called Linda Sarsour, she openly said that they supported Mamdani. So it was a kind of a bizarre situation in New York, but it is also a test case where Sunni Islamists could side with the Shiite guy who may not be even practicing Muslim, but who might help the cause of Islamists. Absolutely. So that was a very unfortunate situation in America. But on the other hand, I can tell you, in America, young Sunnis, especially the Muslim Brotherhood groups, young Americans of Sunni persuasion, I am aware that they are uniting, and they are sort of segregating their kind of a groups, like Muslim American groups, and they are getting hardened. And it's very unfortunate in the many university campuses, Muslim Brotherhood has so much influence. Now, thinking about that, it was a very dismal picture, what I'm hearing from people. And obviously, America has not become Londonistan yet. or Englistan yet. UK's case is a gun case. But this situation, the secular rise of secular forces in Iran, do you think that it will create a positive impact on the future Islamization of Western world, including America? I mean, do you think it will help the secular cause in the long run?
So what I'm seeing is, these are two different views. One is in the United States. For example, if we take the Khoja, or the Ismaili Muslims, as we call them, they have given up the standing up and bending down to do the namaz. They sit on a chair like Christians sit in a church for their namaz, in their Jamaat khanas.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they have completely given up that practice. So they are going in one direction. On the other hand, I'm aware of several Bohri Muslim families from India and Pakistan who are in Michigan, in Texas, and other places. This is on the Shia side, of course, who are sending their children to camps in countries like Tanzania, Kenya, and other places, in order to attend camps which are conducted by Iranians. So these are young people who are being totally brainwashed over there by Iranian interests, and we don't know what they will do when they come back to the United States. We are aware of the issues with Sunni, fanaticism, which is increasing exponentially in some quarters. On the other hand, I think there is also a movement against both, extremist Shiism and extremist Sunni Islam that is happening at a lower level. Though the problem is that the people who are, actually opposed to this are not able to speak up. They have to hide because if they speak up in public, they'll get killed. In Iran, girls who are calm enough to just take off their headscarf, they've been killed for that quote unquote crime by the Iranian police. Saudi Arabia Saudi Arabia is a country where they beheaded a princess for marrying a Shia many years ago. You would remember in 74, I think.
Okay, now let's go back to my native land, Bangladesh, which is your ancestral country's neighboring country, Bangladesh. And 5th of August, proved that 5th of August of 2024 proved that unfortunately American deep state under the guidance of that is Biden administration, basically materialized in a popular movement against Sheikh Hasina, and installed a government who is very friendly to the global jihadis. And you probably, if you are not aware, I'm reminding you that when Mr. Yunus came to America after he got the power, highest seat in the country, he came to New York, I think, to attend a conference and convention in United Nations, and he met his former friend Clinton's of the Clinton Foundation, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. And I think in front of Bill Clinton, he showed a guy named Mahfouz Alam, who was in jail once, he was in remand, and he was known to be a Hizb ut-Tahrir operative. Hizb ut-Tahrir was banned in Bangladesh. It's a jihadi group. Look at that Mahfouz Alam got American visa, and Mr. Yunus showed Clinton, this guy, this jihadi, as the mastermind of the July revolution, quote unquote revolution. So it proved that Mr. Yunus, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, is fully laced with the global jihadis.
Absolutely.
My question is, America sometimes nurtured jihadis, and ultimately the jihadis will come back to them. It happened in Afghanistan, and the formation of Taliban, and how the Taliban ultimately got in cahoot with the Al Qaeda. They committed the 9/11, all this. You know that ultimately America had to.
I also know that you predicted 9/11, sir. You predicted that a major attack was going to happen. I'm aware of your, forward thinking and your analysis at that time.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And obviously, Bin Laden. I mean, I wrote about Bin Laden also before 9/11, and at the time I was working at the U.S. Department of Justice, where and I knew Mr. Ashcroft, Attorney General, but I should have sort of communicated basically. Anyway, that's a past. Anyway, it's gone. Now my point is that America, in many cases, during the last 30, 40 years, what we see, America is not proactive, very reactive. So I already told in few platforms, I gave my 2 cents. My point is that America is going to make another Afghanistan in Bangladesh. This Soros, Bill Clinton, Biden, Harris group. Right now, just like in Iran in 1979, at the moment, in Bangladesh, judiciary, academy, everything is captured by Jamatis. And Jamatis are the stealth jihadis. They don't always work like Taliban or Al Qaeda. You understand? But they are very, very, very widely connected with the violent jihadis of the world. Okay? And I tell you one thing, that if this situation goes on, if Jamaat gets more and more empowered, then two things will happen. Obviously, minority Hindus all will be sent out to India or something, or decimated or whatever. The minority Christians will be persecuted. Buddhists will be persecuted. And women's right will be curbed, definitely. And already we are seeing that women cannot really walk freely at night. It's worse than in Iran. If you look into Iranian videos, like mall, you see many women are already walking around without headscarf. But in Bangladesh, it will happen. But already 7 Hindus were murdered, and one was brutally butchered, burnt to death. Dipudash, so-called blasphemy, allegations. You understood that. So my point is that Trump administration was dilly-dallying. I don't know. What is your opinion? Do you think that Trump has sympathy for this brutal regime of Yunus, or Trump has some other plan which you don't know? What do you think?
So, I mean, let's step aside from Trump at the moment. I think historically in the United States, there has always been a belief, as far as policymakers are concerned, that the best way to fight a communist or a socialist regime is to use religion. They used, you may remember the whole situation with Eastern Europe falling. And many of us attribute that only to Russia's defeat, the Soviet Union's defeat in Afghanistan. But the fact also is that the Pope at that time, John Paul II, he played a major role, in particularly in the Catholic parts of the Soviet Empire, beginning with Poland, where he supported Lech Wałęsa and the Solidarity movement. And, that was the beginning of a series of dominoes that eventually ended up crashing the East Bloc. So the US used that over there. They used Islamists in Afghanistan to fight, the Soviet-propped regime. I mean, I'm not trying to justify the Soviet invasion, but they did that over there. And in Bangladesh, I don't know what they saw, but obviously they found a reason to use Islamists to capture the country. And the other factor also is, which a lot of people don't look at, is the huge natural gas resources that Bangladesh has got. It's something that no government in Bangladesh has bothered to do anything about. They have not, allowed to drilling of that gas, or else Bangladesh would have been a very, very wealthy country, even though it was developing quite well otherwise. And then the minute you support, an extreme Islamist group, what they are going to do is they are going to attack other groups. I mean, let's not forget that the original Arab war cry used to be Al Hanud, Al Yahud, Al Masihiyun. First kill the Hindus, then kill the Jews, and then kill the Christians. So that is exactly what is happening. The biggest minority in Bangladesh are Hindus. So obviously, they find themselves being threatened this way. In India itself, they had a law of return which allowed any non-Muslim minority from Pakistan or Bangladesh to come into India and claim citizenship if they came before the year 2020. That was a law brought in by the previous Manmohan Singh government. But recently, just a few weeks ago, very quietly, India amended the law to say that any minorities who are not Muslims could come in from Pakistan or Bangladesh into India, and they could claim, pathway to citizenship. So, in a very quiet way, India is trying to get people to come in, but India, unfortunately, has to be quiet because number one, it has offered asylum to Sheikh Hasina, with whom it has very close relations. Number two, historically, India has had very good relations with Bangladesh. At that time, I mean, I'm not talking about the Jamatis, but if you take the relatively more Islamic party of the late Madam Khalida Zia, even though at one point she accused her husband of, accused India of murdering her husband, later on she became close to India. Some of her party senior people had been speaking openly pro India the past few years. So India has relations with a large number of, with a large proportion of the Bangladeshi population, both Hindu and Muslim, and it has a very difficult path to, go on. That said, I think what will be crucial will be the elections, which are coming up in just a month's time, February 12th, as I understand, and they will make a very big difference. Second thing is there have been some very, very stupid comments by the jihadis about taking over India's northeast. And that has led to a reaction on the Indian side because in several states there have been demonstrations. They have gone and attacked Bangladeshi refugees who are over there. Rohingyas in particular have been beaten black and blue in Assam, in Manipur, Tripura, Meghalaya, and other states. Many of them have fled towards places like Delhi or Kashmir for that reason. So there is a degree of Jamati sentiment that is coming up, and the fact is that in the United States, unfortunately, the horrible treatment of some of the minorities has not been publicized to any major extent. The American media has been quiet because it is largely supportive of the Democratic Party, and to them, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are, like divine presences on earth. Even the Deepash case was not. I mean, have you seen it in any U.S. media?
Not the Deepash lynching. We didn't see it. So in this case, I want to point out two things. First thing that July upheaval.
Also, sir, sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you. There was also the case of those two Christian girls who were beaten black and blue at a New Year's Eve party for not wearing, head covering.
Yeah. So that's not even focused in US in media. Anyway, so how global Islamists supported the July upheaval? Good example I can give you. Omar Sulaiman, a Palestinian American living in Texas, not too far from some of your friends. So Omar Sulaiman is a preacher. Okay, we don't have any problem. Omar Sulaiman didn't bother to support Iranian People's Movement, never. But regarding the July upheaval, jihadi upheaval in Bangladesh, he already posted some status in his Facebook and everything. We have that. We have the screenshots of those. He was anti-Hasina, and he was all eager to topple, quote unquote, tyrannical ruler Hasina. My point is that, Mr. Suleiman, you are an Islamist preacher. Just pray, teach young generation how to pray. Why you are poking your nose in Bangladesh affairs? So that means the movement against Hasina was supported by Islamists like Omar Sulaiman. Giving another example, Tanvir Chaudhuri is a journalist. I knew him in 2001. He was editing a paper called News from Bangladesh. Those days we used to write articles in 2001 online. Tanvir Chaudhuri is now Al Jazeera reporter in Dhaka. You know that, maybe you are aware of it. In his Facebook during the month of July of 2024, he reposted a status of Sarjis Alam. Sarjis is one of the guys who is very connected with Yunus administration. Sarjis Alam, who was hiding under the lungi, quote unquote, of Awami League. He was, but after July 2024, he exposed that he is a Jamati. So Sarjis Alam basically in that status was asking the rank and file of the army, Bangladesh army, to revolt against officers, their senior ones. That was posted by Al Jazeera reporter. Can you imagine what is the journalistic ethic? But it proves that Al Jazeera, Qatar, Omar Suleiman, all other than deep state, Soros, $29 million or whatever, as Trump already said, and we know that Biden administration's involvement, Donald Lu, there was a global jihadi network or global Islamist network which were eager to topple Sheikh Hasina. Do you understand? Now, coming back to now, and we were very hopeful when Kash Patel became the FBI chief. We are hopeful when Tulsi Gabbard became the NDI. We were very hopeful that director of NDI, Tulsi Gabbard, and her husband is probably a follower of ISKCON. We see what? We see ISKCON leader, Prabhu, Chinmay Prabhu, is still in jail. No movement, nobody could do anything. And regarding persecution, Trump bombed jihadis in Nigeria because of Christian persecution. Do you see any possibility that Trump will bomb jihadis in Bangladesh for Hindu persecution? Do you think there is any chance, Mr. Kamdar?
I doubt it, sir. I'll be honest.
Why?
I think number one, he's too preoccupied with Iran. I think that is the bigger issue. But on the other hand, I think the US will keep a very close watch on how the election goes in Bangladesh. And I don't know how it will go. I mean, I don't think there is any way of doing any opinion polls or anything like that to figure out where it will go. But on the other hand, I have talked to friends in the Ministry of External Affairs in India, and they seem to think that the army has a fairly good hold on it. Some of the thinking in India is that the Bangladeshi military is way more professional than the Pakistani military in this respect. They have kept quiet. They have stayed out of this whole mess. And they feel that India also feels that they would like to wait and watch and see how the election goes. Now, in the meantime, do we think the Islamists will ramp up their massacres of minorities in Bangladesh? They may do it. They may do it. They may create more bloodshed if they know that they are going to lose, or they may keep quiet, wait until the elections happen, and then if the independent candidates from the Awami League who are contesting over there, if they win overwhelmingly, they could go on the rampage after that also. And in that case, what will happen? We don't know. I have no idea what the situation is going to be like, but the situation is, I think Bangladesh is in for more pain going ahead. It's not. It's a very sad situation, as you are aware. We have close friends of my own family who are in Bangladesh. My father's closest friend used to live in Dhaka, a very senior oil and gas executive. We also knew families who were in government over there in different governments. A lot of things. So, the situation is sad. But then I personally, as somebody, I have Bengali extended family, as you are aware. But I personally feel that the Bengali people, as a people, have a history of education. They have a history of. I mean, can you imagine something as stupid as these people banning music, sir, in universities? India's music, if you take India's Bollywood and its music and its popularity, you have to go back to people like Timur Baran and practically the entire singers, Kishore Kumar Ganguly, Hemant Kumar. Every one of the top singers in India was a Bengali. So there is so much of an influence of culture, and that is what these Islamists are trying to destroy. On the one hand, they are able to get away with it because they have weapons. On the other hand, whether they will be able to continue this repression, I don't know.
In this case, I want to interject. Tariq Rahman, the the young leader of BNP, young, of course, younger than us, younger than you. I mean, of course, lot younger than us. Tariq Rahman apparently was acknowledged or accepted by the Modi administration. And I have a feeling that US administration under Donald Trump, they will also be supportive of Tariq's leadership. I saw historically American governments, irrespective of their party affiliation, it could be Democrat, it could be Republican, they were anti-Awami League. There could be historical baggage. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father, was basically pro-socialist or pro. You can say that pro every country, because he was not siding with the NATO, or exactly because he wanted to be friend of Soviet, former Soviet, India, USA. And plus, Sheikh Mujib was the catalyst of splitting a country into two parts. And that country was favorite of America, because if you go back to Peshawar base in 1950s, during, I think, Eisenhower time, and America, Pakistan was always the pet dog of USA. And that Pakistan, I mean, you can say that Pakistan was splintered into two because of Sheikh Mujib. So anyway, and we saw even in 2001, when India and USA basically did not support Hasina, then BNP took power. And I also, currently, I know that USA doesn't have any Awami League card in their hand. Actually, USA wants to bypass Awami League. That's my feeling. So Tariq
Clinton actually called and threatened when Obama was president. She called and threatened Sajib in New York.
Sajib was the joy. Yeah. So there are a lot of examples. Now, you believe that current Indian government is kind of a grooming Tariq Rahman as the future Prime Minister of Bangladesh, maybe, or grooming, or exactly, I would say, or having a sympathetic note on him.
They may have something from the background, so I don't know, to be honest. But one thing that India has definitely done is, after the jihadis talked about the northeastern states, they have moved some really powerful military divisions, to the border with Bangladesh, which they had never done. It was almost an open border. They had only the Border Security Force, which is a police organization over there. Now they moved hard military assets into the region. But on the other hand, I think, part of the concern that India also has is about the Chinese getting a foothold over there. It is possible that they may try to do something in Bangladesh. But I think a lot still centers on the elections. And they will, point to which way policy goes, both in New Delhi as well as in Washington, D.C. If Trump, as we know, definitely does not have any affection for Islamist groups. He does
That
not.
is the point. And I also have hope that Tariq Zia will play a moderate role, because, a year ago, in a platform called People Talk, run from Bangladesh, under Nizamuddin Bipul. And basically, I actually gave my opinion, and basically I sort of talked to Tariq Rahman. That Tariq, you become a change man. I actually asked him. A lot of people laughed at me, but I had a feeling that he would come back someday, and it happening. Now people change. Mr. Kamdar, you are a scholar of religion. I know that you know about the story of Apostle Paul. What was his background and how he changed? Wasn't he? He was a big killer. Anyway, in that video, actually, I mentioned Apostle Paul also. Now, some people say Tariq is not changed. He's a diehard criminal and all this. But I think Indian authority is counting on him. At the moment, one thing you can say that Tariq, whatever he could be, he is not Hizbut Tahrir totally. He could be supportive of Pakistan before, he could, but in the changed circumstance, look at the Al Shara of Syria. Oh, he went to what? Where? White
Yeah.
House,
A
embraced by
Daesh,
Trump.
Daesh leader who is now helping the US fight and kill his own former allies in Syria. So,
So,
yeah,
so what do you think? If Al Shara can change himself, Al
absolutely.
Shara, who was an Al Qaeda operative fighting against American forces.
He was Daesh, sir. He was an ISIS, way
Oh,
worse than ISIS.
oh my God, he was ISIS, and yeah, yeah. So Tariq Zia he was not ISIS. Tariq Rahman is not ISIS. Tariq Rahman was not Al Qaeda. You know. So anyway, we can think. We can hope that if it will change. And basically, Bangladesh situation will not be as bad. And I mean, and what I'm saying under Tariq, because right now there is no government. Yunus is not governing at all. He's sitting in Jamuna. People are being beheaded. Awami Leaguers are butchered. Do you know? Even if you talk to Awami Leaguers in USA, I know some of them. Like I heard that Dr. Nabi, he's a councilman in New Jersey. Do you know that his little library in the village was burnt? Siddiqur Rahman, president of Awami League, living in USA, his house in the village was burnt. It never happened. Every Awami Leaguer can say they were persecuted. Millions of Awami Leaguers. Yes, during Sheikh Hasina's time, you can say there was sometime hard hitting with on the BNP. I agree. Sheikh Hasina regime was not as as angelic as somebody can say. Yeah, there are problems, but whatever is going on now in Bangladesh, you cannot really compare. So we are almost summing up. Before we sum up, I want to ask your comment about something little bit of global, but considering the South Asian affairs. Mr. Trump imposed tariffs on India, and India was gradually going more towards Russia and China bloc. On the other hand, China and India had some problems. But recently, again, I think Russian government was asking for trilateral, some kind of grouping with Russia, India, China. Do you think that, or even empowering the BRICS, do you think there is any chance that the three forces will unite against America, or India will play more of a neutral role vis-a-vis China, Russia, and USA is concerned?
So the optics are really interesting. On the one hand, you have this noise in India. And the fact is, Narendra Modi has always been pro-China. There is no hiding that fact. Even after the fighting in Galwan, which took place, and a large number of both Indian and Chinese soldiers died. He overruled the military, he overruled the Ministry of External Affairs in order to allow the Chinese company Huawei to sell 5G infrastructure into India. He allowed Chinese car companies to come there. Last year, before the budget, he openly invited the Chinese to invest in India. He has always been pro China. That's one thing. And that is one thing that a lot of people have against him. On the other hand, while all of this has been happening, I don't know if you've been following the investment money into India. Trump Media, which is a company belonging to the Trump family itself, they invested $17 billion in India just last December. And Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Oracle together have another commitment to invest $85 billion in India over the next 5 years. So whatever is, I don't think the Indian government is stupid enough to completely abandon the United States. I don't think they can do that, because they know that if they do that, they will, economically at least, they will collapse. They cannot manage without doing business with the United States. On the other hand, does India have a prime minister who is blatantly pro-China? Yes, it does. It's a fact that everybody knows. The government of India wants to hide that fact. They don't want it to be publicized too much. But the fact is that Narendra Modi has always been pro-China. The first time when he went to Wuhan, he actually propagated a total lie, which was carried by the Hindu newspaper in India, saying that the Chinese were going to build a bullet train between Chennai and Bengaluru, because the Japanese were building one between Ahmedabad and Mumbai. It was a total lie. They had no plans to do anything like that, and they were very quietly able to bury that afterwards because they had other things to brag about. So this particular government in India is, yes, it is anti-United States, which is unfortunate, but then it's also a fact, and he will have to deal with Trump.
I agree with you. Maybe on the premises that Modi might be more pro-China, but again, it's India's interest in. But we know that China is the second largest trading partner of India. We know that, and last year also, I think bilateral trade reached $127 billion. So my point is, but China is still the 100% backer of Pakistani regime. So that is another problem. And India and Pakistan, I don't think there is any chance of rapprochement within the near future. Because as long as the Pakistani army persists, or they become the main power broker of the administration, Pakistani army, their ulterior interest or ulterior motive is to attack India or have conflict with India, because that's how they survive and sustain. The problem is not it's more of a interest of the military hegemony of Pakistan. So and unfortunately, it is a reality. The civilian bureaucracy, civilian leadership has less power. So India
there is a rub-off on Bangladesh, sir. There is a rub-off on Bangladesh. Just a few days ago, the U.S. managed to capture Nicolas Maduro, and you would have heard that the U.S. is committed to buying $2 billion worth of crude from Venezuela.
Yeah.
The minute that happened, one country whose resources lost value as far as the United States is concerned is Bangladesh, because Bangladesh's natural gas has never been tapped. There was a time when India and USA wanted to drill for that, and Sheikh Hasina herself stopped it.
Right. That's the time actually BNP took power. You know that. Yeah, because it was a more or less Sheikh Hasina rubbed further the wrong way at India and USA. So India and USA both actually didn't want Sheikh Hasina at the time. I'm talking about 2001.
Now, China needs a source of energy because China doesn't have any. Guess where they will be keeping their eyes on? Their eyes will be on Bangladesh, because Bangladesh's gas has never been touched. The Chinese have a huge natural gas reserve available very, very close to their country, and they will be keeping an eye on Bangladesh. I think that is something that we'll have to watch out for.
Great point, Mr. Kamdar. We talked about different aspects of global politics, covering Iran, India, Bangladesh, and we'll talk more.
Thank you.
It was nice talking to you, Mr. Mehul Kamdar.
The pleasure is mine, sir. The pleasure.
And have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. You too.